Welcome to All Worn Out with your host, Warren Meredith. On today's show, Cliff Chamberlain. We're going to talk hockey. We're going to talk music. We're going to talk about a whole lot more on All Worn Out. Let's have some fun. Hi, everybody. My name is Warren. I'm yelling. I'm so sorry. Why am I yelling? That's horrible. Hi, everybody. I'm Warren, and welcome to All Worn Out. If my glasses are crooked, if there's rings of light in them, I apologize. But, I want to see Cliff. I want to see Cliff's face. It's just the way it is. And I want to see the wall of the Hall of Fame wall, or whatever we want to call it, the record wall.
Yeah, I got one of those.
Yeah. It's like a jigsaw puzzle right now. Like, if you touch the wrong piece, it'll all just come crashing down on us. And if that happens, it'll just be like, it'll be humorous.
You got Kiss Alive up there, so that's good.
So on All Worn Out, we talk about music. We talk about hockey because we're Canadians and we're in Canada's capital. We're in Ottawa. Canada's capital is not Toronto. For all of you American folk out there watching, I'm sure we've got millions of Americanos watching right now. Yeah. But I know we're gonna have one. Stevie's gonna watch, my buddy from North Carolina. So I know we're gonna have one American, and yeah,
he might bring up the Stanley Cup stuff that it's always in the States, but it's always filled with a Canadian players, so it doesn't matter.
So by no means am I an expert on anything. I love music, and I've dedicated a lot of my life to it. And so up on the wall, I've got my record up there, and I've got my charting things and my pictures for my band. And I wanted to share that passion and show like the other friends that I have, like Cliff here from Evil Creek, who has an incredible passion for music. He teaches it. He writes it. He's been doing it for a while. He's very, very good at it. I want to ask him about the festivals that he's going to play, about the song he's recording, and a whole bunch more. So I'm very excited to welcome onto the show here on All Worn Out. We're welcoming Cliffy C of Evil Creek Chamberlain.
AKA.
So, Cliff, what I want to ask you first is, where were you born?
Okay, so I was born in Pembroke, Ontario, about 100 miles north of here. I'm not sure, you might have played there. I've played there many times. We play there at least 2 or 3 times throughout the summer. I'm actually going to be playing there next week because I play in other projects. I do a duo with the Chillin' Flamingo, Les Gagne, who does all the foodie festivals here in the city. And I'm doing something with him next week. We're opening for Flight 227, a local Pembroke band. I had the pleasure of doing another show with them. They needed a guitar player that night, so I pulled out my Flying V, and they sent me a set list the night before, and they're like, "Can you do these songs?" And it was like, I saw the set list. It was like Judas Priest, Kiss, Van Halen. I was like, "Yeah, man, I got it. Let's go." And I ran through them, but yeah.
Okay, so
Pembroke, yes.
Pembroke is where it all began. Right. And when that started out, did you grow up in Pembroke? Did you go to school there?
Yeah, I went to high school there. As soon as I finished grade 12, I was the college thing. I was like, I'm gonna find myself. So I hitchhiked all over the country with a guitar, and then I came back. I went to school. I took music school. I dropped out. It's because the guy I was working with, he got signed to Sony Records, and we did a tour, so I did that. I was like, went and lived in a van for a little while, and got a little too much intoxicated. And I remember we were playing in Calgary, and I woke up in Edmonton, and I was like, okay, that's enough. So came back, went back to Pembroke, actually, started teaching in a local store there. I can't remember what the store was.
So how old were you when you went to Calgary?
First time?
Yeah.
19.
So you're 19 and you're thumbing your way. About what year is that? Because like my dad, he hitchhiked across the country. But this was a long time ago.
Late 80s, because I would have graduated in 86.
So it was still relatively a thing. Like people still hitchhike back then.
Yeah, you could do it, but the truckers wouldn't pick you up. Everybody else would. It was fine. There's there's an incredible story that goes with me going across the country the first time. It was we it was crazy because we were up north and I was with a buddy and we would hit the campsites, right? So and we hit this campsite. We came out of the campsite and we went to this local restaurant and I can't remember where the hell it was. Blind River, maybe, I don't know. Anyways, we were hitchhiking, and even in the restaurant, everybody's looking at us kind of weird, right? So as soon as I was sitting at this one sign, and I saw this thing scratched in the sign said, "Help Kevin Rocks cross the country. We've been here for 3 days," and I was like, "This is not good." So we just kept going on and on. Next thing I know, some guy picks us up, right? And we're driving down the road, and I'm in the front. It's a Jeep, and it's like there's no top on it, and this comes on the radio, and the town that we were just in, two people got murdered. That's not funny, sorry. And
Well, it makes it interesting.
But the guy that murdered them got away, or was not caught yet, and he was the perfect description of the guy that was with me. So the guy that was driving the car, or the Jeep, he goes, "Looks like your buddy." And I'm like, "It's not us." I'm like, "Why would we go out and hitchhike?" So he stops at the first street or the first road, and he's like, "Okay, I got to turn here." We get out. Next thing I know, cruiser comes by, cruiser turns around, cruiser comes back, and then he's got the speaker going, "Put your hands up," blah, blah, blah. So next thing I know, we're getting searched, and then there's all kinds of cruisers coming, and it's like, and they're thinking it's us. I'm like, "It's not us, man." So we spent like 4 hours on the side of the highway, cars going by, and it's like, so we had a hard time from that point on getting a ride.
Ooh.
Yeah, helicopter, SWAT team, everything. It was insane. Yeah,
Fun times.
yeah.
And that's all, music will take you great places if you let it.
I'd be on the side of the road, and I remember these one people, they picked us up, but before we got in, he was like, "Play me a song." And I was like, "Okay." And I started playing him, some Guns N' Roses or something, right? Patience, because the guy I was with, he was a good singer, so he sang Patience pretty well. And he was like, no new stuff. And I was like, okay. So I went back to the 60s, and I started doing Stand By Me.
Right.
So I banged out Stand By Me, and he's like, "Okay, get in, got a ride." So it's one of those things. And we did that a couple times, truck stops and stuff. "Okay, play something for us."
Okay, so let's go back a little bit. Let's pretend that you're in grade 7. So, you're 13.
Right.
What album are you obsessed with at that point in time?
Well, back then, I was, getting into music. My older brother had left me a bunch of records prior to his incarcerations. He'd left me Kiss Alive.
Okay.
He left me Rush 2112.
Mm-hmm.
Rush Caress of Steel.
I know Rush is a big influence on you.
Yeah.
I know that.
Led Zeppelin 4.
Mm-hmm.
It was because my mom had bought me a record player, stereo kind of thing, and she brought me these 2 albums that were Circuit Breaker and Disco Nights, and my brother said, "Yeah, he's not listening to that stuff." But I was already listening to stuff that was popular. Like I was listening to Billy Joel and stuff that was popular at the time. So I liked rock music, right? But yeah, what happened is that it was Rush and Kiss back then. Kiss, I think it was because they were superheroes, right? They were like, look at them. It was just over the top. But there was something about Rush that just kind of blew my mind. It was the musicianship of these 3 guys. And I didn't even know it then. Even though I had played guitar, like I started when I was about 8. And then I stopped because I was too engaged in other things. I was playing hockey. I was doing martial arts. I was too engaged in everything else, so I lost interest of it. So, and then I got back into it when I was about 12. My neighbor, he liked guitar, so I bought a guitar, and did some silly songs. But it wasn't till I was 15 and I went and seen Judas Priest. And after seeing KK Downing with that Flying V, man, it blew my mind. The next day I was in Pembroke and I was walking down the street, and me and my buddy, we had I had my allowance, and we were gonna go get some weed or something. I can't remember. And I saw this Flying V in the window at this store, and I went in. And I was like, just wait. And I went in and I asked the guy. I said, how much money do I have to put down on that to get it? And he was like, how much money do you have? And I was like, I got $20. So he said, give me the $20, and that was my first guitar, my first Flying V actually, and now I have a collection of them.
How many Flying Vs do you have?
I have 5 right now. I've got the old one, but I've got a Gibson, some Epiphones. Actually, no, I just sold one, so I got 4. I had a Kramer Shark like Randy Rhoads, but it wasn't the Jackson.
Okay, so you're 15. You see Judas Priest.
Yeah, that did it, man.
What was was there a song that really grabbed you?
Judas Priest?
Yeah.
Yeah, Rock Hard, Ride Free.
Okay.
That's the one, man. It was the Defenders of the Faith tour. It blew my mind because I remember watching KK Downing coming down the stairs, and because they always had this great big epic show, right? So it was like a Kiss show, right? It was like, and he was coming down the stairs while playing his V, doing this guitar solo. You know, I'm 15. I'm just watching this guy. To me, he was a god, right? So it's like, I saw that, and I was back then. You would go to the Civic Center, so you'd have to line up prior to the concert, like hours and hours before. So you'd be in a lineup with like another 4,000 people just waiting to get in, and then doors open, you rush the stage, right? So I got right against the stage, and yeah, and that was it. Ever since then, and then it just went nuts. I just saw Rush. I saw Judas Priest probably 10 times, Rush 10 times. I saw Van Halen 10 times. I actually followed Van Halen on their tours, like in the area. So I'd go see them in Ottawa, Toronto, Montreal, Quebec City. I'd go see the same tour.
So how long before you then get a guitar, after seeing Judas Priest and after like falling in love with Rush and all those bands, what happens next?
Well, what happened is that I actually went over to my buddy's place, and we'd always go to class in the morning, and we get high before we go to class. And I didn't want to go to school that day, and his mom was gone away for the weekend. He was like, let's just stay here. So we stayed there the Friday, and he had a Helix record. I can't remember which one, but I learned it really fast. I caught on to the music really fast. So I was like, oh, cool. So I was learning it. And then after that, I was like learning the Priest songs. I couldn't learn the Rush stuff. It was too hard. I had to learn the Rush stuff from some older guys. I learned a riff from Spirit of the Radio, and even them, they showed it to me wrong.
Side note, I was on a Senators fan board, basically. Shout out to Sens Chirp. I was on there and asking them, or they were asking, sorry, if Geddy Lee was the best rock vocalist or rock bassist of all. Yeah, if Geddy Lee was the best rock bassist of all time, and I was like, well, no, because he kind of helped invent prog or bring prog into a new place.
Yeah, one of them. Yeah, there's a few like Yes before them, Genesis, bands like that, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And even before that, there was other things, even your Iron Butterflies and stuff like that. But yeah, Rush changed with the times though, and they kept the prog going, right? So like in the 80s,
Working Man, nothing's like it. That's the beginning.
Yeah.
Then it's not rock anymore.
That wasn't Neil Peart either.
And
that wasn't Neil.
No way.
No, that was John Rutsey, the original drummer.
Okay.
Which is a great album.
Oh yeah.
They were playing at the time. I guess in the Gasworks or somewhere, and they would play like on a Friday night, and then when they were done, they would go and record. So they played, I think it was 2 nights, Friday and Saturday night, and they recorded that album that weekend.
Did Van Halen turn his back when he was playing?
I think he did at first, but I mean, Ed's an egomaniac, so I think that he wanted to show it too.
You smoked on stage, lots of cigarettes.
Yeah, I mean, like in the '80s, he had a Kramer made with like a position where you could put your smoke in it, right? So it's like, because guitar players would put it underneath the strings, but he had a little device where you put your smoke there. It's like,
Okay.
a poor guy died because of it, but
I'm curious to ask you about, because you witnessed this. I did too, but I'll tell my story about it. I remember when a bunch of kids came over to my house, and my parents, they were like leaders of a youth group for a church in town.
right.
So all of a sudden, all these 15, 16-year-olds start showing up, and they're crying. They're boo-hooing. I'm 6 years old. I don't know what's going on. And it's Kurt Cobain has died.
Right. Yeah.
And so they're all beside themselves. They're asking my parents if he's going to go to hell because he's killed himself, and a lot of wonderful questions like that. But we're not going to get into the religion. You don't have to worry, folks. But what I'm curious about is how things transitioned from AC/DC and Guns N' Roses and Judas Priest, and how that transitioned into the grunge era, which then kind of imploded.
Yeah, with me, I wasn't a hater, right? I didn't accept it the same way because I was still stuck with those bands. I wasn't an 80s guy. I didn't like the 80s music, the hair band stuff. I liked the bands prior to it, the Van Halens, early Ozzy, stuff like that, which transitioned into the 80s. But whenever it happened, I was playing and I was gigging, and then all of a sudden, all the shows, because the stuff I'd be doing was there was those bands, right? And then no one wanted to hear it anymore. Like we were playing in Seattle, and I remember I was doing sound check, and some guy said, play some Nirvana, and I said, who's Nirvana? And the sound man, oh, he was like, don't say that, right? But I didn't know, right? So, but then within like a couple months, you could see the whole thing was just dismantled. Like my buddies from Love Chain, they were an 80s band from Ottawa that were really popular, and it just crushed them. So, and they were popular bands like Antics and a lot of these 80s bands that were very famous at the time in Ottawa. But to me, I was like, okay, I can't go play those songs anymore. I'm like, I worked my ass off to be a guitar soloist and stuff, right? And I was like, okay, what am I going to do? I'm like, I'm going to teach.
Okay.
So that's where my head went. I was like, I'm going to teach because I can do that.
So you kind of stepped out of the band scene for a while, or did you just combine it?
A little bit of both. At the same time, what happened is that I'd heard Stevie Ray Vaughan.
Okay, yeah.
So
yeah.
I was like this metal guy, right?
Yeah.
So I was really stuck in like a genre of music. Not completely. I grew up in Pembroke, so there's a lot of country music. So I loved country music, okay? So don't get me wrong, I didn't like anything else. It was like country and metal. And there was nothing in between. So I was helping my friend's mom. Him and I were going to outside of Pembroke, Killaloe. We were helping her move. And they had Stevie Ray Vaughan on the tape deck in the car. And we were listening to that, and I was like, wow, this guy's amazing. So I said to her, I was like, who is this guy? Mm-hmm. And I remember she turned around and she looked at me and said, you guys are idiots. And pick any album that I have on the floor and just put it on. So we went, oh, okay, whatever. So we would just go home. She had like a whole wall full of albums, and we would just grab an album. And I remember we grabbed The Who and listened to it. I was like, oh, that's really good stuff. And then we grabbed the Eagles. Because we were just looking at albums, right? Album covers. And I was like, oh, that's a cool album cover. And then all of a sudden, I got engulfed in all this different music. So it's like I listened to Black Sabbath and Led Zeppelin of that era, but I never listened to the Eagles, and I never listened to Stevie Ray Vaughan. But like I said, when I heard Stevie, it blew my mind, because I was like, this guy's an amazing guitar player who doesn't play. He's not Judas Priest. He's not Rush. He's not Van Halen. He's not Randy Rhoads. But he can kick ass on guitar. So all I did is I got my head into Stevie Ray Vaughan. And that's all I did for like probably 2 years. I just learned blues. And it wasn't that I learned it. I loved it. So and then I changed. I started playing in different bands. I was playing in country bands and blues bands, and so
Okay.
yeah, it was fun, man. It was like, and I was jumping into different projects. I was like really opening myself up. I was doing a lot of acoustic. I put my electric guitar down literally for about a year, and all I did is play acoustic. Now I played a lot of classical music, so I don't listen to classical music, but I play it on guitar. Not on that guitar. I play it on my classical guitar. You know, like I'll play it, and I usually got to have the sheet music in front of me and stuff. And you know, the girlfriend will come downstairs, and she's a classically trained piano player, right? So she'll come down. She'll go, "That's really beautiful," and I'm like, "Oh, thanks." But you know, and then I started doing stuff like that. I would play like I do matinees, like so I'd play a show on a Friday night, and then the Saturday of that club, I would take my classical guitar out and I'd play in the patio. And a lot of times I wasn't getting paid. I just play. So then people would, put a hat down, put a glass down. So then the next time I came back, the owner would be like, "You're gonna play on the patio again?" I'm like, "Yeah, give me $100." So I started doing that, and then I'd start playing like restaurants and stuff, and I'd be the guy in the corner playing jazz and classical music. And this is where Mark and I came into play. I was playing metal shows in Ottawa, and so was Mark, and we were doing the same scene, and we were playing shows together. But he knew I was playing these little intimate things, right? And then one day he said, "Someday you and I should start an acoustic band." And I thought it was a joke because he's this hardcore metal guy, and I was like, "Yeah, whatever." And then, yeah, 8 years ago, he contacted me and said, we both had broke up with our metal bands. And he was like, "You want to do this?" And I was like, "Sure." And so he sent me some music. And then I was like, "Wow, this is really good stuff. Let's do this."
So what you're telling me is that the evil in the Evil Creek comes from
It's Mark.
that metal background. That's why it's Evil Creek,
Well,
because it's that edge that you guys bring from your metal background.
I've never liked names of bands at all. So I have always said that all band names suck. I think Black Sabbath is the only cool name out there because it suits them and everything. And everything else was always like, to me, if it was a cool name, it was the artist name. Tom Petty, Bruce Springsteen. It was the name of the artist, right? Prince,
What about Rolling Stones?
I was never a big Stones fan. It kind of fell into me. I liked it because it had that country influence, and I later got into the Beatles more. And I'm not trying to put down the Stones in any way, but it's just that as I started listening to the Beatles, I was like, wow, they wrote everything. They wrote it all, and we're just copying them. That's what I felt, anyways.
A lot of people have come to the very same
They're
realization.
so versatile, right? And they're talented guys. Like I've been a teacher for 20 years now, and I'd have people come up to me all the time and say, like, it's students will come up and they'll be like, "Oh, just teach me a Beatles song because it's easy." And I'm like, it's not that easy. It's not as easy as you think it is.
You need to find the nuances and all the little details
Yeah.
that they've thought of.
Yeah.
And
They're all geniuses.
Yes.
Like, I know people say Ringo's not a great drummer. He's a fantastic drummer, man.
I think they all proved themselves beyond reproach in a certain capacity.
I went and saw the Ringo Starr show. Yeah, I went and saw the Ringo Starr. What is it? I don't know. It's like the celebrity band. So it was so cool, man. I saw it in Niagara Falls, and the same year I went and saw it in Kingston.
So speaking of Evil Creek, did you and Mark play in a metal band before?
Yeah, so he played in Darker Day. I played in Claudia. So I played in other metal bands. I'm sure he did too. I only know him from Darker Day. I played numerous metal bands or hard rock bands, and the version of the band that he knows me from is Claudia. So what was happening is that I had done a bunch of country bands, blues bands, acoustic stuff, and then I was like, I'm gonna give it one more kick at the can. I'm gonna do the metal thing again. And I kind of fell into it because I was like, I'm gonna start this band with myself and two girls. So I was like, I'm gonna get two hot girls because they're eye candy, and I was doing stuff that was gonna be more, like Stray Cats, that kind of stuff. Just like a really good groove, stuff that people could dance to and just have a good time. So we were rehearsing and we were ready to go. This is the funny part about it. We were ready to go, and then one day at rehearsal, I pulled out my Les Paul, and sorry, I would have been probably playing one of my Les Pauls at the time, and I plugged it into my 5150, which I wasn't using at the time, and I started rocking out. We were doing like just like metal kind of songs, and the girls were just jamming, right, and they loved it, and they were like, "We should do that again." And I was like, okay. So I just thought it was a one-off, and then if the next week was like, let's do that hard stuff again, and I was like, okay, and it started to really gel, and I was like, okay, so I guess the last 6 months that we just rehearsed is useless because we're going to start this heavy band. So we went down that road, and I was like, I'm going to give it one more kick at the can. I wrote a bunch of heavy songs, and we went out and did it. And this is where I met Mark.
Okay.
Yeah. So he knew who I was. I was playing in the city, doing a bunch of shows, and he sent me a message. He was doing a benefit at Greenfields, and he had Jeff Waters. Jeff Waters was playing with him. He was from Annihilator. He was gonna do Jeff was gonna play with Darker Day that night, do a bunch of Annihilator songs and some Darker Day stuff. And he said, "Do you want to do this show? There's like 5 bands on the bill." And I was like, I sent a message. I responded. I said, "Yes, I'll do it." And he said, "Okay, here you're on this time." And he put me on first, and I went. I wrote him back and I said, "No, man." I said, "Put me on right before you." And he goes, "I can't. I already have it." And I'm like, "Well, I'm not playing." So he sends me a message back literally like an hour later. And he goes, "You got it."
Okay.
So that's how we met. And then that's how I met Jeff Waters. And yeah.
Cool. So how long, so we're going to kind of get into Evil Creek right now. How long has Evil Creek been a band for now?
About 8 years. Like I said, Mark had already done a full EP. He did it all on his own on Reaper, and I listened to it and I was like, this is really good stuff. And he was doing all these open tunings, right? So he was doing like open C tuning. I'd never done that. I'd done a lot of like open E and open G. So it was like kind of bluesy slide stuff, right? But the open C stuff was something I'd never done. But I really dug it, right? It was really cool. So what I did is that I brought a 12 string and I played 12 string to it, and it was like, okay, this is really cool. So we incorporated a 12 string and open C to it. And then I started writing in that vein. And then from that point on, it was a split. Like we would write kind of 50-50. He would write most of the words to it, and we would work on it. But he did work with the words, and then I would write like the music to a song. He would come up with the words to it. But with what was happening is that I noticed that like after that one EP, everything that we had done was really dark. Other than the one song that we had, 2 songs. He had one called Lickin' Twins. Okay, which was like this really crazy bluegrass thing, which open C and stuff. And then I wanted to write part 2 to it, so I wrote Highway 69.
Okay.
And it just came to me. It was like, it was kind of a goof. It was kind of like me just stealing 3 chords from country songs and like just did a kind of up-tempo bluegrass song. So I was like, when we did those songs, I was like, okay, these people are really reacting to this, even though the Like a Ghost and stuff like that was like working really well. But every time we play Highway 69, it was like everybody's like, boom, 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 boom. They're loving it, right? And I was like, there's such a simplicity to this. So we did that on the next EP. We wrote some stuff like that, more bluesy, more up-tempo, happy kind of stuff. And now this CD, the one that's going to be released, we're going to release a couple songs per month. There'll be one released in about 2 weeks. But they're more like this. We don't have any open C stuff on this new CD. It's all in your face rock. Uh-oh. Plus kind of a up-tempo bluegrass, kind of heavy bluegrass.
Well, until you said the bluegrass, I was like, oh, you're coming into the Tame and Sorry world there.
No, we don't. We didn't. We're not there. It's more. If you were going to categorize it, it would have more like a Blackberry Smoke kind of sound. It would have that kind of vibe because we were getting into that stuff anyways. We were, I had a student say to me, "You should check this band out, Blackberry Smoke." So I told Mark one day, and this was right before COVID, and I said, "We got to see this band." They were playing at the Bronson Center, so we went and saw them. The next day, the country got shut down, so we saw Blackberry Smoke. So that was in our brain through the whole time. We were listening to that kind of stuff, Whiskey Myers, Blackberry Smoke, all these southern rock bands, that had this, Leonard Skinner kind of hook, but more modern, right?
Yes. Well, they've done great for themselves. They're one of these bands that's doing it by word of mouth mostly, and building their grassroots fan base by playing live.
Yeah. Great live too, like real musicians. Right?
I know.
You can feel it, right?
Huge respect to them. They're in a group of few elite who have found a way to make money and tour successfully in today's market. And I'm telling you, it's not easy. It will be a reoccurring theme as we go through the podcast here on All Worn Out, that a lot of musicians today are getting a little bit worn down by...
They're getting worn out.
Yeah, they're getting worn out by the difficulties of the business.
Yeah, well, being in a band is hard. It's like, it's a relationship, and like we've gone through a few different members. All good musicians. It's just sometimes it didn't click. I think the group of guys we have now we all really enjoy each other. Like, it's like, I always had this thing where it comes to like bands, it's like you got to have three things to me. It's like you got to love the music you're doing. You got to love the people you're doing the music with, so like the hang, and you got to make money. So if you can make two of those three, you're good. So in our case, we've never been successful enough to make a big pot, but all the money we make, we don't pay for any studio, we don't pay for any shirts, everything's taken care of, and we always have a bunch of money in the kitty, so it's all good. But we love hanging with each other, and we love making music, so those two are good, and that's what keeps us going, right?
A lot of bands are not able to even do that, have the money to pay for everything. I can tell you for Taming Sorry, it's something we've always worked at. Again, try and have the money to record, try and have that money to promote. That's difficult. The more and more you want to compete on a bigger and a bigger and a bigger and a bigger scene as it goes, it gets harder and harder to do that. But what I find impressive about Evil Creek is that I have watched your fan base grow steadily.
Yeah, it's steadily. It's going,
And because you guys play different places, you play small towns.
Yeah. We don't do a lot here. We do a couple Brass Monkey shows. We did Overflow. That went really well, actually.
Yes.
That was probably one of our best gigs this year.
Sound is amazing there.
It's a good gig, eh?
Yes, I love that stage.
Yeah,
and
I saw you guys there. It was a great show.
I love that stage. I love the sound there. Very good.
Yeah, everybody's top notch there.
So let me ask you this. You just finished a song at Audio Valley.
Yeah, we recorded all our drums. So we did 9 tracks, but we also have previous tracks complete that are already on Spotify. But we're going to add those ones to the full album, because we've always been making EPs. We put 3 EPs out, and then we put out like 3 singles. So we're going to take the 3 singles that are after the 3 EP and combine it with the full CD. But yeah, so what we did is we did everything at Audio Valley. Josh Hart, but he was always, he had a producer hat on and he helped us out. But this time we want to do it all our own, other than the drums. And just do it at our place. So like last week we did all Mark's guitars and Russ's bass, but there was no constraints on time, and there was no pressure on like we get a sound. I'm like, do you like that? Yeah. And we, like, do you want to change it? And so we didn't have to worry about that time constraint. It's like we're $60 an hour kind of thing, right? So it felt really good, and Mark is a trooper in the studio. Like, the guy's a beast. Like, he's one of the best guys I've ever seen in the studio.
When it comes to vocals?
Yeah, vocals. I mean, he's hard on himself, but I
Oh,
just
wow.
yeah, you would know, right?
That's very
But
common. I've never met a vocalist who walked out and was like, "Yeah, nailed it."
that's me.
No, I don't. I don't. I mean,
Because the
maybe.
songs I do are just like that's my voice anyway. So I just like play it, and I'm like, okay, there were 2 takes. You're not gonna get any better than that.
I definitely know if I walk out and it's bad
Yeah,
versus if I walk out and I know he can do something with that. Being
yeah.
the producer,
You're a
know.
good singer though. Even on a bad day, you'd probably sound great. So it doesn't matter.
Well, on the second album, I'd lost my voice a week prior to recording in Toronto.
You're a little raspier on that CD.
And yes, and so my voice just came back in Toronto like a day before,
Right.
and I was drinking hot water with honey and just slurping it back.
It sounded good, man. Like I mean, you had a little bit more growl in your voice.
Yeah, I see. That's the thing you're talking about having that time and that space. Whereas
Yeah.
we were on the clock and we had to move, and we had a session drummer, and so that was a fun experience. I'd never experienced that
Right.
before. But yeah, so getting back to you though, you just did Gravel Fest. So this is one of Voodoo's offspring
Yeah.
sisters.
Yep.
Um,
It was interesting. It was pretty cool. Pretty cool festival.
yeah, good crowd.
Yeah. Well, we were on early. But I mean, you could see it. Like I mean, you played Whitewater. It's the same deal.
I was gonna ask you about Whitewater.
It's the same deal. It's the same. There's a whole bunch of campers. It's on the guy's land. Like I mean, he has a house right there. A
So
great big house, pool. It's pretty cool. We couldn't stick around. I watched the band after us, Trevor Walsh. Really entertaining. Just 3 guys, but I mean, older gent, man. But he was so funny. The banter between him and the bass player just on stage are just hilarious. And then interaction with the crowd. They did a bunch of covers, but he would play a 12 string and he would play like Pink Floyd. He wouldn't do any guitar solos, but he didn't need to. It was so good. So yeah, there was a good experience with meeting him. And maybe we'll do it next year again. I'm not sure. We were gonna do Barnstorm this year. Barnstorm?
yeah, with Tick. If Tick still runs it.
Well, is the Barnstorm or there's one. The one we played last year, we played one that was another Barnstorm kind of thing, or Barn Burner.
Okay, the Barn Burner. Yeah,
Did you
with
play
Chris
the Barn?
Gaines.
Yeah, so we played
Yes,
Barn Burner
Barn
in Kingston, and
Yes, that's
that
different.
was a
Yeah.
good one. But Barnstorm we did last year.
Okay.
We headlined that one, and it was a really good show. Had a great time, but I reached out to them early. Like a lot of times, we're reaching out to people via February and stuff, and they didn't get back to us. And we sent them a couple messages, they didn't get back to us. By the time they got back to us, we'd already had Capital Fair booked, so it was on the same day. So I was like, sorry.
I've done Capital Fair too. Lots of fun.
Yeah. So it's a festival that we haven't done as Evil Creek. Like Mark and I have done it in metal bands, which was I think a mistake, but I think we'll do fine with this project.
Okay, so you're ready for Whitewater. What else is coming up this summer for you guys?
So Whitewater, we got that. We got Capital Fair. We got was it Barn Burner with Chris Gaines? Is that I got that right? Barn
Yep,
Burner,
yep,
Barn
the
Storm?
Barn Burner,
I
yeah.
get them mixed up. So this month we don't have anything this month, but what we're doing is engaging and recording the
right.
stuff, right?
That's right.
And we had a few gigs come up and we turned them down. Like Mark would send us stuff, or I would see them and I'd be like, I don't want this. And like Mark sent us something, I can't remember what it was, but I was like, no, let's not do anything, because then we're gonna have to engage that. We're gonna have to rehearse for that. So let's just get the recording done. At least get a few tracks done, and then if we need to, like whenever we got 3 done, then we can worry about the other ones, take our time and through to like December, get the rest of it done. Some of them are really intimate where it's like, it's really like, there's a couple songs that it's like Mark doesn't even need us. He could just play the song. He could play the song and play the acoustic, and like Steve could do a shaker if you want. Like he's doing like and I'm doing like some slide stuff. So like, I mean, Mark could do it and just send me the track and I'll just do the slide stuff over top of it. Cause I'm just kind of honking around on the slide. There's two like that where Johnny and I are like doing literally 2 notes in the song. We're just doing like these big backups to it.
Well, speaking of Johnny,
Yeah.
when did Johnny Bap McConnell come into the scene for you guys, and how long did it take him to fit in, find his groove? Because I definitely believe it's a different Evil Creek now than it was.
It's a better version of us for sure. Yeah,
I agree.
It's been. I think he said just recently that it's been 3 years. Come a day ago or 2 days ago, what was happening is prior to that he had his other band. What was it? Walking with Crows, and they had lost their guitar player. And he sent me a message. Would you fill in for us? And I was like, oh yeah, sure, I'll do it. So I learned a couple of the songs, and I was like, yeah, man, I'm gonna put some meat on this. Then I was like, no offense, but I need to kick some ass on this guitar. And he was like, yeah, okay. So like I sent him a track of what he had sent me, one of their songs, and I kicked the shit out of the song. I made it bigger, right? And he's like, oh, that's great. I was like, okay. I said, sure. I said, but I don't want to do this. I said, I'll fill in until you find somebody. Well, it was literally 2-3 weeks after that where it just fell apart. I never rehearsed with him at all, right? And then literally a couple days after that, Mark said, he was like, what do you think of Johnny joining? And I was like, I think that'd be fine. I said, what's he going to do? And he was like, he's going to play keyboards. I'm like, that could work. And I was like, Johnny's an incredible singer, and it's like, how do you feel about Johnny being in the band? Like I said, I don't care. I said, like I sing a couple songs and I sing like 5 songs a night. I said, but how do you feel about having this incredible singer join the band? And he was like, I think it'd be great. He does these amazing harmonies, right? So he'd come to rehearsal. He worked his ass off. He knew a whole bunch of songs. He knew songs that I didn't even know anymore. I was like, oh, okay, so is that how it goes? I was like, so yeah. And he bounced it out. He was just doing keyboards at first. And then we'd be like, I was going to be playing mandolin on this certain song. And I'm like, why don't you do it? So then he'd play mandolin. And then it was like, okay, there's another song that has a different 12-string one, so he's doing that. So he's playing 12-string. He's playing mandolin. He's playing keyboards. He's doing djembe. He's doing like this cool djembe thing where him and Steve do this drum solo thing together. Mm-hmm. And then he does a rap. Mm-hmm. He does this crazy rap, and it's hilarious. And he actually did it one night. I think we were playing Pembroke. We were playing Lassus, and they started doing their regular drum solo thing before we do the song Lovely, right? And he just started rapping, doing this, Johnny B rap. And it was hilarious, and everybody was grooving to it. So I was like, that's got to be part of the set now. But yeah, he's a big part of it. Like we did the Gravel Fest without him. Did it go over good? Yeah. I mean, but we did the songs that we knew that would work really well without him. So we did it, but it still felt naked to us because we had been with him for so long now, 3 years. Mm. So yeah, he's definitely a good influence. I've made slight suggestions about him singing a bit of lead. He doesn't want to. He thinks that Mark's voice is the main voice and my voice, because I do a couple songs with the band.
So what I was going to comment on was when he first joined Evil Creek, I reached out to him, or he reached out, one or the other, we were talking about it. And okay. I remember saying to Johnny, like, are you going to be okay not being the lead singer?
Right. I said the same thing to him.
I said, is that going to work for you? Because I'm not that good of a guy. Personally, I wouldn't humble myself that way. But my point was going to be that I think that's a theme in Evil Creek, is that each band member you've made mention of this, is willing to step back, is willing to allow the proper person to shine, for the band to shine. And like you said, you've developed the voice of the band that's been developed.
Yeah.
And Johnny understands that. He got that.
Yeah.
And he came in and added to everything. He didn't try and push anyone.
Yeah.
I give him a lot of credit for the way it's worked out, because honestly, I didn't know how it would, but Johnny proved again to me that he is Johnny Bapp.
I mean,
And Evil Creek proved
he's funny as fuck. I mean,
Oh,
he's one of the funniest guys I've ever met in my life. Right?
He's one of the funniest people anyone.
He says some things in between songs that I'm like, wow, I can't believe that. It's like, I know everybody's laughing, and I'm just, wow, that was hilarious.
Johnny is hilarious, and he's also so loving and caring.
Yeah.
Genuinely. Which I
sometimes a little too emotional, but yeah.
Genuinely so, though. You know, it's not like he's,
because I'm very a matter of fact, right?
But maybe that's okay. I mean, maybe you need that.
I'm a bit of a hard ass in the band.
Just be careful.
I'm not a hard ass in a way that it's destructive to the band. It's just that if I hear something that's like, that's not gonna work, I just stop everybody and go, no, we're not doing that. That's wrong. And then they'll listen to it and they're like, oh, okay. It's like, if I hear something where it's like, you know, we're playing a part and we're doing, like, we're writing something, and say we write, like even Mark, like, just wrote this great song, and then he was suggesting to do something in the bridge. And I was like, no, man, leave it alone. It's perfect. Don't try to wreck something that's already perfect, right? Like, leave it alone, right? You know, it's like, you know, and the same thing with me. It's like, I could do like this crazy wanky Van Halen solo over it, but I wouldn't do that. It just doesn't fit the project, right? So I tame down my abilities when I'm playing. It's like, even like I'm recording the stuff for the new album or the new song, and I was listening to it the other day. So I hit record, and I did, like, you know, 4 tracks, and then I was like, I'm gonna try one. I'm just gonna go nuts. And I did one, and I was like, I listened to it, and I was like, that's crazy guitar, but it doesn't fit this song at all, right? So it's like, let's go back to playing the Leonard Skinner riff, right? Which then again fit with it, right?
Hey, that's very cool.
And we do it in the studio, and Mark's actually he's the kind of guy where it's like, when I'm in the studio with him and we're recording a solo, if I did that crazy stuff, Mark's going, oh, that's great. Because he's hearing it from the first point right there. He's going, oh, that's a great solo. And I'm like, nah, it doesn't fit it. It doesn't, it's disrupting the song. We gotta dumb it down, you know, like, just play what sounds good for the song. So in a lot of ways, I've got to step back too whenever I'm playing with the band, because I want to rip, but I can't do it sometimes. I'm gonna just relax, Cliff.
Well, that's okay. That's good that you've got the reins on that creative.
It has to, man. You don't want to wreck something that's already good, right?
So, if I may, you are a Leafs fan. Is that true?
I am. I know you're gonna bring this up, but I like the Sens too, and I'm not that guy that hates the Sens because I'm a Leafs fan. I grew up as a kid as a Leafs fan, right? So then, you know, living here, the Senators came about, so I'm like, I live here, I support this team, right? And, you know, it's like I told you earlier, like, when they play each other, I want a tie. And if it's like at the end of the last year, whenever the Sens needed those points and the Leafs were playing them, I wanted the Sens to win, so they got the points, right? And they probably did, because they play the Leafs hard.
Oh gosh, they do.
Yeah.
They do play the Leafs hard.
Yeah.
But they have to. I remember Austin
better
Matthews.
Team this year, man. You're gonna be a way better team this year. That goalie.
Well, yes. Hopefully, Linus Ullmark makes a difference for Ottawa.
He's definitely gonna. He's a good goalie.
It would really be great, and it'd be good if you know, Chikrin's replacement has a better time being Shabbat's partner. But the Maple Leafs are fine. They've also made quite a few changes that I think are positive.
They've made changes that'll work right now.
Yeah. The goaltending's a question mark, but
yeah, I don't know about that.
It's a question mark, but I think that it's there. The potential is there. Like, Joseph Woll's a good goalie if he stays healthy.
Yeah.
And Stolarz, we don't know past the 25 game mark what he's going to do, but every goalie has to do it. and he's definitely put
Can
the work
only
in.
hope for the season that Patrick Waugh had in '86, where it's just like he's the goalie, right? It's like he comes in as a rookie and just wins them over. But I don't see it. I've always said that the Leafs need D. I don't think they got better D. I think they got tougher D.
Okay. Ottawa tried to do the same, for sure. I think it's a league thing right now.
It's you got to have big boys in front of the net to push guys out of the way.
Yes.
And that's been a problem with the Leafs for a while. They've had offensive defensemen that can move the puck up, but then when they're in the other zone and their D can't move the big forwards out.
It's a good point. As a Senators fan, I'll never, ever forget Chris Pronger smashing the shit out of people standing in front of...
If Chara would have stayed with them, they would have won a cup.
Oh, man, I agree. And Hasek, if he hadn't gone down at the Olympics, that year would have been so special.
Chara left, and he went and won cups in Boston, right?
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. He made Bergeron a legend overall.
He's big, but he was good.
Oh, he was incredible.
So, he's a rarity, right? You don't always see that. But it's still nice to have a big guy that can move people.
He came over with Spezza in the Ashen trade. And
was that what it was?
Yeah, and at the time, he was not very good. But they worked with him, and all of a sudden he started flourishing, and the 6'7" defenseman started moving better around the ice. And that's when it was trouble for everybody, because his passion and determination was always there. Workaholic and cycle.
I like what's happening too on the bench. I like that Alfie's there. Could he be the head coach? Probably, but right now it's good for him to be the assistant and learn more about it. But I mean, you gotta. He's probably still a pretty good player. So out on the ice, he could still teach guys,
yes,
how to play and how to be better. Even though he might not, you could probably put him on for a period, and he'd probably still be pretty good.
He might pass out, but yeah. I mean,
after 20 minutes, he's done. But
Yager's another story. You might put Yager out, and he might give you 5 or 6 shifts in a game.
Yeah.
He's a monster at that.
That's what I said when Wayne Gretzky got into with Phoenix. I was like, the reason he did that is because he wanted free ice time, so he could play with the professional players. He could be on the ice. It's like, you're tired, but he was like, I still want to play.
So, what's your thought on? Have you gotten into the Steve Dangle podcast? Or the Steve Dangle Podcast Network. Now, he's the Leaf fan who yells at the camera.
Yeah, I don't really pay much attention to him.
So he started his own podcast network, and sometimes...
I know who you're talking about, though.
Sometimes I tune in, and what I've noticed is it's so Leaf biased, because they'll try and talk about other teams in the league.
Yeah.
But then they're even more Leaf biased than
it's
TSN.
like Kipper and Bourne.
Oh yeah, it's
Kipper and Bourne are there's they have a Leafs hour, Kipper and Bourne, right?
I get it. There's 6 million of you crazy folk in Toronto,
but they're paid by the Leafs organization,
I get it.
Right? So.
And they're also paid by the fans in that city. I understand.
They make a lot of money. Leafs make a lot of money.
Oh, well, they're the only NHL team I think that charts in like the Forbes top whatever for
I know,
sports
and
earnings.
They give money to the lower teams, right?
Yeah. Yep.
But I mean, even before all the collective bargaining, like the Leafs had a lot of money, and those teams like New York, LA, Detroit, Toronto, even Montreal, they had a lot of money, yet they couldn't build teams. I remember New York would build these great teams. The Rangers would build these amazing teams, and on paper it's like they're going to win the cup, and then every year it's like nope. Other than the years with Mess, and that was like what 94 when he won the cup.
I remember watching that night. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's on paper. Well, look at the Leafs. On paper, they're amazing, but in the playoffs, they're not.
I think Tree Living got it that their defense definitely didn't have the sandpaper for the playoffs to help out, and in Ottawa, Steos understands right now the importance of the bottom 6, And that's the same thing with the Maple Leafs as well. Like the bottom six is so critical if your star players aren't ticking all the way.
A lot of times you do have star players that are going to bring you to the cup, right? You know, like your Edmontons, Pittsburghs, and stuff like that. But of lately, you don't need that. You just need a good core of players that can do it for you, right? So even in the Leafs, like the whole trade Marner kind of thing, Marner's probably not going to go anywhere unless that he wants to. Okay, now for them to trade him, they're probably going to lose out. They're not going to get a player of that caliber, whether it be a defenseman, goalie, or whatever.
No,
he's a great player, and maybe he will shine in a different playoff scenario. Now, people come down on him hard because he didn't play well last year, okay? But it's like every year that they don't do well, they're going to find those little things about the players. Other than Austin Matthews, who's like this 200-foot player, it's hard to replace him. You got a guy scores 60 goals a year, and then ever since he's been in the league, he's been a phenomenal player. He keeps getting better every year. He's 6'3", 220 pounds. It's you can't find that, right?
No, he's a fantastic future legendary Hall of Fame player for sure.
Yeah, whereas Mitch, he's still small, right? So that's part of it, right? He's like what, 180, maybe 170.
What I like about Mitch is that even though he's taking all this criticism, all this flack, he still wants to be a Maple Leaf.
He's a Toronto boy, right?
And he's still
from the area, right?
He's showing he has thick enough skin to continue playing on that team, and he definitely has the talent. I personally think he's, like you said, you're not getting him back. I feel that once a player announces that they need a trade, or that the team announces a player needs a trade, I feel their value just plummets for no good reason. Really.
Exactly. Right?
It's not like it's a good reason, but it happened with Ottawa. As soon as it got out that Chychrun wanted out, well, that was it. Full value wasn't happening.
No.
And he'll
probably do great in Washington.
He will. He has a fantastic shot, and if they put him with a shutdown D, he'll do fantastic. He was like an alternative to Shabbat. He wasn't. He shouldn't play with Shabbat.
He's an Ottawa boy too, right?
Yeah, he was great, but defensively lacking. And I understand Ottawa needs to block some more shots and clear some more pucks.
He might do better because he's not here.
He will. He will do better. And it's Washington. I think Washington proved sneaking into the playoffs that they can't be overlooked. Ovechkin just turned it on in the second half of the season like a button. All of a sudden, he was scoring goals every night.
He's been that good since he's been in. So
but he was quiet, right, for the first.
He doesn't get hurt.
He doesn't
get
special.
hurt.
He will overtake
beast,
Gretzky.
Man. I don't know if he'll do it this year.
Yeah,
but
probably not.
He's doing it in two for sure.
Yes. I think this year
and then he's going to retire.
I hope he does. I hope he does right on top. Yeah. He should.
He'll retire right after it. And then all the naysayers will come out and they'll be like, well, Wayne played another year in the WHA. And then they'll be like the Gordie Howe, he played 4 years where all his points, you add those up too. It's like, what if Jagger stayed in the league? Like, there's all that. But when it comes down to it, it'll be like NHL, Ovechkin's the top goal scorer. And the goals he scores are pretty insane. What's whacked is that he sits in that spot and he scores all the time, and he's done it his whole career. And it's like you would think that someone would be able to figure out how to stop him, but he still goes there and he scores from there. Like, he scored lots of great goals all over, but it's that one spot. That one spot right on it's like right on the wing, and he's
with the stick up in the air, waiting.
It's like the goalie's like, okay, I got him.
Yeah, but I'm ready.
Goes over my shoulder. It's like, holy shit.
Yeah,
Did you just score on me? Yeah.
He was a lot of fun to watch as a kid when he was trying to dangle through people, but as he grew into a veteran, he just knew, this is where I'm going to get my points. This is where I'm going to do my job best. And people are talking a lot about Crosby. Should he be moved? Does he need to move?
I think the thing is, it's up to him. I think it's, if Sid wants to go, he goes. That's the way it is. And right now, I think Sid, he's like in this position where he's like, I'd like to give it another kick at the can. Like he's still playing really well. Um, he's got all the accolades you could ever want. Like, I mean, Stanley Cups, World Championships, Olympic medals, scoring titles, Rocket Richards, MVPs, Hart trophies. He's got it all. Like, I mean, he's got this resume that's insane. It's like, it doesn't matter. So he could just finish off his career there and be fine. He's still going to be first ballot in.
Yes,
he's going to the Hall of Fame,
of course,
first time,
yep.
right? And I mean, and points, like he's got an insane amount of points. And I mean, even those years that he was injured, like how many points would he have if he did, if he wasn't injured? He's basically out two man years.
It's true.
In injury.
Back to music for just a minute. Are you going to be going to Blues Fest here in Ottawa?
I was almost going to Nickelback tonight. The girlfriend was like, "Do you want to go to Nickelback?" I'm like, "Do you want to buy tickets?" And she was like, "I don't know," because we watched the Nickelback thing on I think it was Netflix or something.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And it's like, all the Nickelback haters and stuff. And I've never hated them, right? So I was like, I was never a big fan, but I never hated them. I was like, yeah, they're a good band, whatever. Do I want to go see anything? Probably not. Motley Crue, I've seen Crue numerous times in their heyday. I saw them on their very first tour on Too Fast for Love in a small arena in Quebec. There was about 2,000 people.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. So, and I was never a big Crue fan either. I just the tunes were good. To me, it was like, I remember saying to myself way back in the day that I would, because I was really into like shredder guitar players. So I was into Randy Rhoads and Eddie Van Halen and Alex Lifeson, and at the time too, I was listening to a lot of Dio, and I said I would sooner be as good as Randy Rhoads and not make it big than be as good as Mick Mars and make it big. Okay? But this was Too Fast for Love, okay? Mick wasn't as good. Mick got better. Mick just kept progressing and becoming a better player. Now, Mick's not a shredder, but he writes great songs and he writes these beautiful melodic solos. So if you would have put like one of these 80s shredders in Motley Crue, say Warren DeMartini from Rat, you put him in Motley Crue, it wouldn't work. Mm-hmm. I don't think it would have worked. I just think Mick was perfect for them. Now, John Five's in it. I think it's cool. He's a good mix for them. I saw John Five at the Brass Monkey. It was a great show. It's not Crue.
Fair enough.
Mick's not there. It's like Keith Richards not in the Stones.
Right.
I think he's a integral part of the band. But honestly, like if he can't play, and I don't know the logistics of it. When I last saw them play years ago, Mick played okay, but he was all crouched over and stuff with his disease and stuff. So he wasn't very dynamic as far as visual. Where Nicky was running around, Vince was running around and stuff, right? Tommy was doing his whatever theatrics on the drums. So that part of it was gone. It was like the band was like, they got this one guy over here who's just standing there playing his solos, and then the rest of them are just moving about, right? Not that that's what you got to do, but I just thought that, to me, Mick was a part of it. And then people always say, "Oh, should I go see Motley Crue?" And I'm like, "Have you seen them before?" And they're like, "No." I'm like, go see them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's like Kiss. Have you never seen them?
Go see them.
Go see them. You'll understand. You're going to the circus.
So you don't mind Nickelback? Nickelback's okay for you?
No, I don't mind them.
I don't mind them either.
No, I think they got good tunes. I think they got ripped on a little bit too much.
I think
sold 50 million records, man.
Yeah.
Some people like them.
What happened is, a lot of people said, "Hey, my band isn't that far off of Nickelback. How are they number one all over the world?" But the truth is, you are far away.
Chad's a good songwriter.
Yeah, you're just not being real with yourself.
Chad's a good singer. He's a good songwriter, a good guitar player.
Exactly. And look at all the bands he signed.
Right.
That sound like Nickelback.
Right.
It's genius to do that. Like Theory of a Dead Man and Finger 11, I believe.
But
or,
in industry, you see that all the time. It's like, say, Blink 182 comes out with their sound, a whole group of bands that sound like them.
that's right. Some
know?
41
Yeah, they
was
all
the Canadian version.
they all start to sound the same, right? And then, hey, if I was a record company, I'd do the same thing. I'm like, let's sign another band that sounds like that. It's gonna sell, right?
Exactly.
You just
Okay.
can't get another Rush.
Well, no, I don't think so. There's a lot of bands you'll never
Tool.
get.
Tool's got a bit of Rush in them, but heavy. Like, I mean, a very
Yeah.
heavy dynamic to them.
Yeah,
Like,
you'll never get another Geddy Lee. I mean,
well, his voice is very distinctive.
You'll never get that again.
You're gonna get people that a lot of people hate his voice, right? It's like, you know, Axl Rose, Neil Young, Geddy Lee. You know, there's certain voices that they just don't like. But you know, I love Geddy's voice.
There's people that don't like my voice.
I love Axl Rose's voice.
That's.
I'm not a fan of Neil Young's voice, but I am a fan of Neil's writing.
You see, it's just.
I think Neil writes great music, man.
Yeah.
Great lyrics, great songs. Yeah.
And you're just like, I don't prefer his voice. It's not my preference.
Yeah, like if I had tickets to go see Neil, I would go. I would enjoy it, but I wouldn't put it on. I wouldn't put the music on. You know, I'm kind of in a stage right now where I don't even listen to like Van Halen, Ozzy, Rush, and stuff like that. I'm in a, like, you know, I go to Spotify, like, you know, what am I listening to now? I'm listening to like this dude.
I do the same. You find
Steven Wilson Jr.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So cool.
You find a lot of cool artists.
He's like
now.
a Texas boy who plays like a classical guitar, but in open C tunings, and it's like whacked. It's really heavy. He's got like a grunge country thing going. So yeah, I fall into people a lot of times. I'll be like, oh, that's a cool artist. I'm listening to more bluesy stuff than anything. So I'm listening to a lot of Joe Bonamassa now.
Okay.
You know, I'm getting humbled by listening to him.
Very nice. My friend Ross Sutrillo, who produces Taming Sorry, his band The Commoners is always on Bonamassa's playlist on Spotify.
Nice, yeah.
And I'm always very jealous of that. And Bonamassa is an amazing player. A few years ago, when my dad was a janitor at the CTC, he brought me back a whole bunch of Bonamassa clothes that he just didn't want anymore after performing.
Nice.
Just so happens I'm his size, so I got all these great shirts and vests.
Yeah, I wouldn't know that.
Because that's how Bonamassa dresses: solid red, and then a nice vest.
Nice.
And I was like, "That's sick." And my dad's like, "Yeah, he just left it all." He's like,
So I got a question for you, and it won't even be about Taming Sorry. Local bands.
Yes.
So is there any local bands that you kind of listen to, or at least you gravitate to being a fan of? Like I have a few that I even if I don't see them, if they're playing, I try to purchase a ticket. A lot of times I'm playing at the same time. I play so much, right? So I'm playing, like, this is the only time I've been off for 2.5 months.
Over the next 30-ish days, I'm gonna talk to a lot of Ottawa band folk here on the podcast on All Worn Out, and that's because I love the passion that people have, even if I don't know all of their songs.
Right.
If
you're not going to. I don't know all your songs.
Yeah.
Right?
If I can see people's passion and their commitment to something as an artist, it draws me in. Mm-hmm. And the scene, in my opinion, has grown and has improved while I've been a part of it. I don't know if when I jumped in, it was a little bit
Right. We see a small sect of the community, right? So we see the rock community, right? Whereas there's a whole different community that we don't see, you know.
Oh, Mike, I watched Come and Grow and other parts, the pop, the hip hop.
Yeah.
There's a lot of sections of the music community which I feel have come up and shown what they have. The diversity is really something else.
Yeah, so like even me, like the guys from Winter, they're hilarious. Partying with them, hanging with them at festivals. Like when we saw you guys at Blues Fest, I hung with the winter guys, and it was a blast. I've listened a little bit to what's it Sunday Ride Club? Yeah, I dig them because they played the Whitewater, and I remember we were playing Whitewater too, and I was in my car and I was like just chilling, and I was like, oh, what's this? Caught my ear, right? So I went out and listened to it.
We're
But
gonna talk with Ryan.
so I like
from
those
Winter.
guys too.
We'll
Oh, you
talk
can
with
talk Ryan?
Alex from SRC as well.
Okay, yeah. So I'm
Um,
in commune with him a lot. Like I said, I couldn't make it to one of his shows, so I feel bad because I play so much. So I'm playing, and they're like, "Hey, do you want to do the shows?" We're actually setting something up. The two of us, we're gonna do a show together. We're thinking like September, October. It
Cool.
has to be before like the end of November because Russ he moves down to Florida in the winter.
Okay. And Russ is the bassist?
Yeah,
Okay. And
he's
Steve is the drummer?
yeah. Russ is our bassist slash manager slash uh, tech guy. He does everything behind the scenes, and he's good at it.
Excellent.
Yeah, I mean, he's, I mean, he's like a boss at R&D at like one of these big companies here. I can't remember, but he's so good at it. Like, I'm not. I write songs and perform.
How about Steve? What's his role like in the band?
Partial comedian. Good drummer. When it comes to songwriting with me, like generally, I'll write something, bring it to the band, and then I'll allow the guys to morph what they bring to the band. Right? If I don't like it, I'll be straight up. I'll kind of say like, okay, there's this song, and you got to keep it really simple. Don't confuse it. So then, if they're confusing it, then I have to stop them. So generally, it's like if Steve's putting together a drum part for it, I just let him go. I'm not a drummer. I don't say I'm a drummer. I don't tell him how to play drums. Same thing with Russ. Like I remember one time we were playing a song. It was like some of the new songs that I brought to the table. Like there'll be like a break in the middle where it's like a bass run, do 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 do, and Russ would ask me, he said, "What do you think?" And I said, "Sounds good. I mean, it sounds good. You're a bass player. It's got a good groove." To me, if it doesn't work, I'll let you know. So when we were doing this one song, it was like a real simple song. I'll give you an example. Just let me grab my guitar for a second. So it's a song that goes something like this. It goes. So the drums had to be really simple, right? And when he brought it to the table first, when he started playing it, it was really simple. And I was like, that's great, okay? And then a couple rehearsals later, it was like, and I was like, no, what are you doing? I said, and I stopped him, right? I said, simple, man. I said, I want space. I want to hear space, right? So I said, let it breathe. I said, let's hear air. A lot of space, a lot of air, right? And then he was like, "Oh, I'm just trying something." I'm like, "Yeah, don't try anything. Just do what you did before. You had it. So it's one of those things where generally I'll tell him, "This is the feel. You go with it. And if it sounds good, I'm like, that's it."
So you're all passionate, and when your passion comes through, like when you said, "I hear it like this," he's able to listen to you, which is something that it doesn't happen in all bands. I'm sure you can attest to that. Yeah. Oftentimes, the problem in bands is you'll have a vision for something, you'll hear it very strongly, and another band member will just try and shut that down. And what I find is it's just like improv.
Well, Mark does that, right? Mark, and no offense to Mark, he's great at doing this too, but he'll bring a song to the table, and then Steve will play the drums, but then he'll doctor the drums sometimes with them, and he'll work through things, and it's his vision, and he hears it, right? But we've had jokes where it's like Johnny and I look at each other, it's like, how many drummers are in this band? We're like, I don't know, apparently 3. So it's like we're just joking, but it's like Mark's vision is is good, and he's got it right. But it's like with me, I don't do that. I really let them do their thing, and most times it's perfect. I'm not gonna like if it's like and that's Russ, and I'm like, yeah, it's fine, man. I don't want you to go. I don't want you to do anything more than what you should. I don't hear that. I'm like, you're a bass player. Like I remember Joey was asking me. He does a lot of he helps us with gear, and I was watching Russ play bass. He's like, he's amazing, and he was like, can you play that to me? And I was like, I can play it. I said, but I can't play it like that. I said, Russ is a bass player.
That's
I
right.
said,
That's right.
I can't do that. I said, can I play the notes? Yes. I said, but he plays bass. I'm not a bass player,
I think that's something a lot of people might not understand is the musician's feel for the instrument and how much that impacts very much so the most basic of songs.
Yeah, we do that with Johnny a lot too, where it's like he's such a good singer. So whenever we're doing vocals, it's like, especially when we're not so much writing, but when we're in the studio and after we had the song, Johnny's in the studio with us, and we'll have like backups, and I'll be like, "What do you think?" And I'm like, he'll be like, "Well," and you can hear him in the control booth singing different things, and I'll be like, "Go do that."
Yeah,
Go do that. Let's hear what it sounds like in the recording, right?
Yep.
Like one time we were doing I was supposed to do a backup to a song. I went out and had a smoke, and I come back in, and Johnny was already doing his backups, and he goes, I did your backups, and I was like, okay, great. And he's like, you don't want to come in? I'm like, I can't do it better than you. And he's like, you sure? I'm like, dude. I said, I know you nailed it. You nailed it perfect. I said, so why should I even bother going in and trying to try it? I was like, you got it. And he was like, really? I'm like, yeah. So that's what you're here for, man. You're a great singer. So sing, man.
I think he was a fantastic addition, and I can honestly say I did not know it would take off so swimmingly the way it did and grow into what it is.
He's super passionate about it too.
I know he is, and that's the thing is I'm impressed, but mostly because of personalities. That's what mostly impresses me is the fact that you guys were able to mold personalities.
He's funny, man. He's funny as fuck.
Humble each other, support each other. Yeah. It's not that easy to do, folks. If you're in a band, listen up, because this is a part of the key of the success for Evil Creek. And you might be saying, oh, what success? And if you are, you're a jerk. You're an asshole. Because the first thing you have to know about being an independent band is it's one of the hardest, most difficult kinds of projects you could ever begin. Yeah. And if you're committed, it will either eat you whole and spit you out, and you'll be like, I'll never do a band again. I'll never try and be friends with 4 people again at the same time.
I don't feel that with the guys. We have a good time. Mark and I have butted heads in the past about things, but
that's normal.
But it's just because we both have visions on something, right? So it's like, I'm like, don't do that, and then he'll do it again, and I'm like, don't do that.
It's definitely how.
It's like, but he's trying things, right? He's trying to see if it sounds better, right?
You guys are like brothers. That's what it's, and that's kind of the thing with bands is if you get to that point, you can butt heads, but then you can still go have a beer and everything's okay. Yeah. My friends were touring in the UK, and they said they had a massive argument that almost melted the band down. I'm not going to tell you who it is because I just don't want to embarrass them.
Yeah, we've not been there really.
And the argument was about socks. It was about they were taking their laundry to the laundromat in the UK someplace random, and they were arguing like, those are my socks. You stole my socks. And it's tour head. Basically, they've been on the road, they've been on the plane, now they're in a foreign country, and they're in some laundromat, and all they want is a clean pair of socks.
I kind of would wish I was doing that. It's the only thing that I kind of
the dream.
Wish we could get to. And I mean, I think with our demographic and that everybody, they have families and stuff like that, they all, are kind of stuck in that and they're good with it, and they'll play locally. And I think other than us getting like something where it'd be like, oh, you're opening for Blackberry Smoke for 6 months, I don't think that we would do anything more than that. Whereas myself, you know, I'm not single, but I don't have any kids. So I've always done this. I work at Long and McQuaid, but I'm a guitar teacher, so I can literally quit and then come back 2 years later and have a job. Like I can get hired in Vancouver.
Ladies, you know? I was gonna put a number up that like scrolled along the bottom that said call this number for a date with Cliff, but he pulled that off the table. He just said he's taken, and so no ticker, no dateline for Cliff.
No.
But it was in the plans. I was gonna try and hook him up, but let me say this: I've had a lot of fun tonight.
Yeah, me too.
And the last major question I'm gonna ask you is, what other passion does Cliff have that isn't music, and that isn't the Maple Leafs or the Sens?
Okay, so my life consisted of me growing up playing hockey and martial arts. So I did martial arts pretty much my whole life. But as I got more into guitar, I injured myself a bunch of times in martial arts. I broke my wrist, broke my knuckles and stuff like that. So I was into hockey, martial arts, and motorcycles. I rode motorcycles since I was 6 years old, right till I was like 16. And the same thing, I wiped out. I had a bad accident when I was like 16. I busted up my face, my orbital bone and stuff. So I stopped riding bikes. I don't train anymore, but I still know it because I did it my whole life. I competed a lot. I played hockey right till I was 16. I competed hockey till I was 16. But ever since then, like around that time, I was getting really serious with guitar. I like doing woodwork and stuff like that. So I didn't want to injure my hands anymore. So I kind of stopped everything, you know. And so do I still work out? Yeah, like I said, I ran like 10K today, and you know.
No, that's a lot farther than I could run. And yeah, I'm not good at running.
But that my passion, yeah. I mean, wintertime, I love watching hockey, and it's not just a Leafs thing. I love watching good players. So like stars.
You see,
and I don't mean just guys that score goals. I mean like great goalies.
Oh, I know.
You know, great players, man. They blow my mind.
This is why we're gonna talk hockey with all the guests on All Worn Out.
Should, yeah. Because
Canadians have a connection. They have stories about hockey, even when it's not about playing. I know my sister has stories about being forced to go to the rink and meeting these other girls that were being forced to go to the rink because of their brothers.
I was forced martial arts, but I was never forced in hockey. I always loved it. I loved going. I loved being on the ice, man.
And then some of those girls end up joining in and joining the hockey as well, or the martial arts. And I mean, yeah, it's pretty cool. What else do we have to say today?
To me, right now, when I don't have anything, if I'm not playing, if I'm not doing anything, I like power of silence, man. I just really like to chill by myself, not listen to music, watch movies. Like, you know, I'll geek out, you know, Star Wars and Avengers and stuff like that.
Star Wars over Star Trek?
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
Yeah, Jedis, man.
Jedis all the way.
Yeah.
But
Samurais, man.
Jedis is just like, who's your favorite Jedi?
Obi-Wan.
I think that's the best answer because he shows his humanity, but he's still able to maintain himself as a Jedi.
It's hard to like Yoda because he's just too good.
Yeah, so there's what's bad about him. Like, it's hard to envision Yoda having any kind of sex fetish, you know? Like, it's highly improbable.
I want to write a cartoon called, I can't remember what I said it. It's but at early years of Yoda when he was a kid, when he's in school and he's like, you know, throwing like erasers at the teacher with his mind.
We know now because of Grogu.
Chronicles of Yoda.
Chronicles of Yoda.
Yeah.
We now know because of Grogu that it's likely that Yoda had a fetish for eating frogs. We know
Maybe.
we know because of Grogu. Like Grogu's shown that he loves frogs. So now I believe they should show us what happens when a frog hops by Yoda.
Yeah, it's the cartoon of it.
You know,
but yeah,
I think it'd be pretty
like
great.
I said, like Power of Silence to me is just. I read a lot too, so whenever I'm not doing anything, I'm reading a lot. I'm reading a lot of hockey and rock documentaries.
You're a real Renaissance man,
Yeah,
Cliff.
like my whole beside my desk, it's like Doug Gilmour, Mark Messier, Wayne Gretzky, KK Downing, Rob Halford, Steve Lukather's book, great book. Yeah, I got a stack of like rock stars and hockey players that I read all the time. So I'm waiting for Alex Van Halen's book to come out. It's going to be out in October. So it's the memoirs of him and Eddie.
Where can people go? Where should people go if they want to hear new Evil Creek?
Yeah, with me, I just do the Spotify thing, but we're basically on every platform. But what we're doing now is we're not setting it up where it's like you gotta, we're gonna build it up for that month. It's like when we release it, when we have it done, we're gonna release it, 2-3 days or whatever that week, and we're gonna put it on Spotify, but it's going on YouTube too.
Okay.
We just want people to listen to it. We're not concerned about the, monetizing it or making money off it. We just want people to listen to it and have a good time with it. So we went through that whole thing. It was like build it up, and it didn't matter. It didn't change anything. So to us, it's like just release it, let people listen to it.
Well, I think you guys have successfully been building a fan base here in the Ottawa area.
Thanks.
I've seen it. I've seen you guys playing more and more and more outdoor festivals, more and more different venues and different places. Some which I'm jealous of. You've played some shows on the beach, I think, for Canada Day not too long ago, and you told me like there's boats there.
Well,
and
that was me with Les Gagne, the Chillin' Flamingo. So
Oh my
I'm
gosh.
doing that. I'm doing that in August too. So I'm playing next week with him, and then in a month from now, I'm doing Whitewater on the 9th. The next day, I'm playing with him at Jan and Carrie's. We're doing a duo thing, and then the next day we're on the boat. So I got 3 days of gigging. So the wife's not going to see me for 3 days. I might be a little hungover when I get home.
Lock the door, honey. Cliff's coming home hungover. Send him to the motel.
Yeah, I'm going to get some sunblock.
Well, look, Cliff, as white as you might be, look at the screen in front of us and you'll see that I'm whiter.
Well,
Because-
I was out getting some sun today.
Yeah,
so.
well, I guess so, but the sun destroys me. I just
You're right.
melt. I don't even get a little rouging.
Well,
I'm
I'm native. Yeah, I'm the only white native in my family, but I am. If you saw my mom, rest in peace, she was dark. My whole family's dark. They're just all natives.
Well, that's an interesting fact I did not know about you.
Yeah.
And
Well, I'm
also,
half.
you have relatives who served in the military as well,
Yeah,
right?
my dad was a soldier. He spent like almost 40 years in the military. 20 in the military, and then another 18 in the Air Force.
Wow. Air Force, so you need to have like that 20/20 vision or not really?
He had it, yeah.
Oh, wow. He didn't pass it on to you, though.
No, not at all. No.
It's okay. I'm far away from it.
Yeah.
Very far.
He couldn't sing or play, so
So,
my mom could sing. She was a good singer.
yes. And do you sing like your mom?
No, mom was a better singer than me. I'm like that guy who sings and I got the fast.
My mom could sing also. She did Patsy Cline
Nice,
a lot
right?
in that style of country music.
Yeah.
And I definitely credit her with some of my having an ear. I think moms
You're
who
a great
sing
singer,
to us
man.
and
You're a great singer.
oh, well, thank you, brother. And thank you so much for coming on All Worn Out, where we talk about music, we talk about hockey, we talk about whatever you're passionate about. And if you want to be on the show, give me a message on Facebook. Send me an email at warrenthegingerfoxmeredith@gmail.com. I'll put links in the below. I've had that email for a long time. You can see a Warren the Ginger Fox band up there on the wall. That's from many, many moons ago in the olden days for me. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I've had a lot of fun here tonight. I hope you have too. I hope you learned about music. I hope you learned about Cliff. And you better get out to see some Evil Creek.
Yeah, and I'm wearing pants.
For all you know, he's lying right now. Okay?
Yeah, I asked them that earlier. I said, do I have to wear pants?
It's possible that neither of us are wearing... Oh, Cliff, you've ruined it. You ruined the allure. Okay, all right. You see nothing fancy. That's too bad. Johnny is going to come on, and I'll bet you Johnny will wear a Speedo for the whole podcast. I won't enjoy myself, but I still bet he'll do it. Folks, thanks a lot for hanging out. We've had a lot of fun tonight. We're going to see you again, I hope. I'm going to edit this, put it up on YouTube, some other places. And yeah, we hope we see you the next time on All Worn Out. Bye, everybody.